The things I've seen, the things I've done, the wounds I have gained, all from learning about Digimon, the movie. Yeah, what a wild ride. Kind of crazy to hear about the development on this thing. Oh, the eye patch? Yeah, there was a joke I was going to do about opening a 20-something-year-old DVD. I thought it didn't work. Anyway, something, Wars Change, Metal Gear Solid joke. Yeah, I got nothing. Hit the Digi-Rap!
The Digi-Volution is up and running. Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know what's coming?
Digimon the movie. What a weird thing. Released on October 6, 2000, the film is something of an odd Frankenstein mix of 3 unrelated films edited to make something of a coherent plot. Kind of. Between its use of late 90s music, the Angela Anaconda opening, and the weird legacy it left behind, the movie has quite a tale to tell. I mean, I remember watching this back in the day, getting a free trading card. I even remember suggesting on the Nostalgia Critic forums for him to review this, being quite happy when he no Cheso Otaku did. Then I read things like how an actual marriage was destroyed because of the Angela Anaconda short, or how this is considered a diamond in the rough of a film. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Like any great tale, we need to go back to the beginning. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But for those with the Fast Pass, time code for all of you. Again, I apologize about the last review. For the rest of us, let's begin the story. Our story begins... Shoot, I forgot about this. So Angela Anaconda was a show that aired on Fox Kids around the same time as Digimon. I never watched the show and have next to no knowledge about it. Billiam did a whole video on the show. Links in the description. In the context of this film, Angela and her friends are trying to get in to watch the best movie ever, the Digimon Movie. Sure, fine, I guess that's one way to look at it. The alpha bitches cut in line because they have VIP tickets to the Digimon Movie. Why? Angela fights for a movie seat for the Digimon Movie. Why? The alpha bitches block her view by using a teacher.
Why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Angela dreams she's a Digimon and fights the alpha bitch.
Why? Why? Why?
And it turns out everyone is in the wrong film. So now that that pointless scene is done, the film can begin. Except, you know what? Let me just show you the opening credits. I mean, look at this. They literally just made a 3D background and had JPEGs of the Digimon run around. It would be like if I had my JPEG characters just run around. Like this. It also has the Digi-Rap, which, yeah, this is a thing.
Digi-Dudes will Digi-Rule with Digi-Ability.
So after all that, the film actually starts with Kari introducing herself, describing the team, talking about some random kid in America named Willis and his 2 Digimon, and remembering about the first time she encountered a Digimon. As she puts it,
I was so cute, huh?
On that night, an egg came out of the computer and into reality. The next morning, Kari and Tai wonder just what to do with such a thing until it starts rolling around. Soon enough, it hatches. As funny as it would be to have a chestburster happen, the Digimon just retreats under the bed. After harassing it with the goggles of leadership, Kari tries communicating with the creature with her whistle, by singing the Digimon theme song.
Digi-Will and Digi-Vice in hand. There's a Digi-Dynamic.
Tai soon tries to think of what to do with the monster, and it becomes a Koromon. That just took a dump. Kari begins to feed the Koromon, we get Rockefeller Skank, and a literal cat reminds Koromon and Tai why not to mess with its food.
Anything.
Let's have a warning for this too.
Yes. This actually happens. Later that night, Koromon starts acting funny and digivolves into Agumon, a big Agumon. No, not Alpha Agumon. That Pokemon game hasn't come out yet. Kari hitches a ride on the dinosaur and the two escape into the city and cause some hijinks.
Did you see that?
No, I was sleeping.
But you're driving!
Okay, that's actually kind of funny. It soon becomes apparent that Agumon is violent as he begins opening fire on everything. Kari tries to stop the Digimon when a second Digi-Egg appears. It hatches, revealing Parrotmon. While this is all happening, Tai follows the destruction, reuniting with Kari. Agumon tries to fight Parrotmon, and fails. This doesn't kill Agumon, but turns him into Greymon. The dinosaur and Parrot fight, and Greymon is knocked out. Kari desperately tries to save her friend as Parrotmon comes in for the kill. Tai, realizing that Kari doesn't have enough strength to blow her whistle, takes the whistle and awakens Greymon. Greymon and Parrotmon fight, and then disappear. which leads everyone to believe that this was caused by the terrorists and not by giant digital monsters. Saying this out loud makes it sound like I'm some conspiracy nut, and we haven't even reached Tamers yet. Next up, the film jumps 4 years later to the year of 2000. Tai is having a hard time writing a letter to Sora. The reason? Not important right now. While he is writing, Kari accidentally sends the email, and then leaves because she has a birthday party to go to. Tai, of course, is unhappy till he learns that the letter will not be sent, at which point he is angry that the email is not working. Anyway, Izzy arrives and has made a startling revelation. An egg has formed online.
Oh, not that egg.
Izzy was tipped off by a boy in Colorado named Willis. Who's Willis? Not important, that's for the next film. Anyway, Izzy links two computers together as a means to have a stronger computer and internet communication abilities, so to observe the Digimon that is formed online. Not how that works, but okay, we'll go with that. Izzy explains that the Digimon is some kind of virus that eats code, which is messing with the information at a supermarket right now.
Okay, that's 1 box of chocolates. Your total comes to 1,100,000. Huh? Yeah, that's what it says. That must be really good chocolate. Paper or plastic?
Tai asks why hasn't he just deleted the creature, to which Izzy responds he tried and failed. The two then realize that the Digimon has digivolved and that there's not much they can really do to stop it. Tai bemoans Agumon not being here.
I am here.
That's right, folks, the Digimarketable Digimon are here and they want to help. While the Digimon and Genai aren't certain that Karomon is a Digimon, they are certain he poses a greater threat than the Dark Masters, and I assume a lesser threat than Apocalymon. Pizza! Anyway, Tai decides to start calling the Digidestined in order to get the band back together, but much like Bam back on Jackass, this proves to be impossible. Kari is of course at a birthday party and is unable to help. Joe's taking classes, Mimi is on holiday in Hawaii, Sora is not on speaking terms with Tai. The reason? Apparently Tai made fun of a hairpin. Ah, young love. Can't wait for Season 2 to destroy this ship. Anyway, Matt and TK are potential help, but their grandma accidentally puts the phone down trying to get the two. Alone, Tai and Izzy decide to fight back against Karomon. Their plan involves sneaking up on the Digimon. The attack proves unsuccessful, so the two decide to digivolve and the world watches as something is going on. Wow, this X-Play review of Digimon World is amazing! But Karomon counters by digivolving into Inframon. Greymon and Kabumon continue the attack, and it proves to be pointless. Izzy soon realizes why. When Karomon digivolved, it bypassed a step due to all the data it had ate. Inframon is at the ultimate stage, so Tai and Izzy digivolve their Digimon.
So fast.
He's got a Digivolve faster.
Attacking while your opponent is digivolving. That's probably the smartest thing any villain has done on Digimon. No wonder you get a revenge film. Yeah, you rank higher than Apocalymon. Back to the film, Inframon escapes back into the net with the Digimon resting for the next encounter. But something concerning happens. Izzy receives an email from Inframon and realizes that Inframon has infected the phone provider. If compromised, Izzy and Tai will lose access to the internet and their Digimon. Tai desperately tries to contact anyone, but learns the hard way that the phones are dead due to Inframon speed dialing every number.
Did you hear me?
What?
It's busy.
I'm sorry, lady.
It soon gets worse.
What?
Connection terminated.
What? Next.
In response to this DDoS attack, the phone company creates a voice call system, or as Kari calls it, phone tag. Tai starts sending as many messages out there, trying to contact anyone. In the meanwhile, Izzy has gotten hold of a satellite phone. By connecting to a military satellite, Izzy is able to regain connection to the internet. And anyone with any history with the military knows this doesn't work. Not the military satellite thing, the military has some nice tech. No, I mean being able to get any internet connection via said tech. The two also learn that TK and Matt are in. Informing the two of the situation, Matt and TK realize they need access to a computer since their grandma has none. Meanwhile, Tai learns that TK and Matt are the only ones available, especially since Mimi is in Hawaii. Back online, the four Digimon and Digidestined attack Inframon. Agumon and Gabumon digivolve into War Greymon and Metal Garurumon. But before they can attack, Inframon digivolves into Diaboromon. Acting fast, the virus pins down Patamon and Tentamon. TK tries to get Patamon back into the fight, but his cries are fruitless. Thankfully, Matt and Tai are there to attack Diaboromon. It's a tough fight.
Look, something's wrong. Huh?
But something is wrong. Tai notices that the Digimon are slowing down, unable to keep up with Diaboromon. What's more, Izzy has a potty break.
I hate to tell you I told you so, but I told you so.
Okay, Again, a funny scene. Tai can only watch as the Digimon fight.
No! No! No!
Ah, the dreaded blue screen of death. Never a good sign. Izzy returns, shocked at what has happened, and reboots the computer. We soon learn about why Sora and Tai are fighting. Long story short, Tai gave Sora a hairpin, Sora thought Tai was making fun of her hat, then the pin, and this is pointless. Again, 02 would destroy this ship. Moving on. Back online, Tai is shocked to see the Digimon close to death. To rub salt in the wound, Diaboromon shows a countdown. Confused at first, Izzy soon learns that a nuclear missile has been fired. The nations of the world are trying to intercept the weapon, but Diaboromon is causing these interceptions to fail. If only the military satellite tech worked. Izzy then realizes that the missile is being aimed at their location. Quick, Izzy, make the Digimon play tic-tac-toe. It worked in Wargame. With everything at stake, War Greymon and Metal Garurumon gather their strength for one last push to defeat Diaboromon and stop the nuke. Finding the virus, it becomes apparent that this is going to be hard since Diaboromon has copied itself. The hero's only shot at winning is to destroy the original, as destroying the original will delete the copies and stop the nuke. Goes about as well as you think. Tai and Matt watch helplessly as their friends be destroyed, and then a miracle happens. Through the heart of the cards or something, Tai and Matt will themselves into the metaverse to be with their Digimon. Giving their Digimon words of encouragement, and by saying that kids throughout the world are counting on them, the Digimon begin to change. Emails from kids around the world form around the Digimon, their energy powering the Digimon. War Greymon and Metal Garurumon start to change as a Digi-Egg forms around them. The egg hatches, revealing the two Digimon have combined into Omnimon. The Diaboromon fire back, to which Omnimon responds with a backhand slap, decimating a large number of the clones. This is then followed by Cannon Fire and Alt Rock as Omnimon exterminates the Diaboromon like cockroaches. In the end, only the original Diaboromon remains, but the virus proves too fast. With time slowly clicking down, Izzy soon remembers the slowdown from earlier. Forwarding the emails they received thus far, Izzy causes Diaboromon to slow down. At the last second, Omnimon is able to deliver the final blow, killing Diaboromon and stopping the missile. The day is saved, the cake Tai's mom cooked is ruined. Right, that was a story thing I forgot about. And Sora receives the email from Tai. Still angry, but not in a malicious way. You know, the Japanese actor for Tai saw this as a sign that Tai and Sora would be together. Shame that 02 ruins that ship. Anyway, with that over, the film finally comes to an end. Wait, what? But we... Oh, right. I forgot. We still have Digimon Adventure 02 Part 1 Digimon Hurricane Touchdown and Digimon Adventure 02 Part 2 Supreme Evolution The Golden Digimedals. Because the Japanese just had to make this a two-part OVA. Okay, so plot for this one. Some years have gone by, the original Digidestined, sans Kari and TK, have gotten older and have more responsibilities. As such, Zordon decided to choose new Power Rangers, I mean Digidestined. These are Yoli with Hawkmon, Cody with Armadillomon, and Vmon with Davis.
Davis!
Sorry, you'll understand this one when I review 02. Anyway, Kari and TK are in New York when Kari gets a bad feeling.
I hate it when I'm right.
So remember that boy Willis? Yeah, this is basically his film. He is currently dealing with his Chocomon that is hunting him and his Terriermon down. The Chocomon, okay, so technically Wendigomon, tells Willis to go back, something that Willis doesn't really understand. Kari and TK try to help, but the American runs off once the Wendigo disappears. Realizing they need backup, Kari and TK contact the rest of the cast to come to America to help out, which is important because Kari and TK get stopped by the Digimon while riding the train. Though, given this is America, this is more likely Amtrak operating as normal. Anyway, the rest of the 02 cast make their way across America thanks to Yoli's cousins. And, hold on, is that a fucking Mazda? Anyway, eventually the group encounters Willis and quickly realize that since Willis has a Digimon, he is a Digidestined, but confused as to why he's alone. This is foreshadowing to 02 people. Davis and Willis get split from the group and Wendigomon reappears. Vmon fights back, Terriermon digivolves into the Second Amendment, and Wendigomon just tells Willis to go back. again. Afterwards, Willis explains to Davis what's going on. Years ago, Willis received a Digi-Egg that when hatched had twin Digimon. As a lonely kid, he tried his hand at summoning another Digimon. He partially succeeded creating Diaboromon. World War III almost happened, and the virus infected Chocomon. Long story short, Willis is returning to Colorado to confront Chocomon, hoping to save it, or defeat it, one or the other. This causes Davis to cry.
I'm the one with the problem, not you. Get over it.
Okay.
That was fast.
Yes, it's resolved that fast. Eventually, the group make it to Colorado and confront Wendigomon. Despite everything, the Digimon still says for them to go back. Confused, Willis asks exactly what does it mean. Wendigomon then talks about destruction in Digivolves. We get a battle scene with some kick-ass alt-rock. But the rock only goes so far and Chocomon digivolves into whatever this clown is.
I suppose you think I shouldn't have a gun either!
The battle turns with the Digimon now de-digivolved by Chocomon, but the cavalry arrives as Kari, TK, Angemon, and Angewomon make their appearance to fight back. Unfortunately, it proves too little too late. Chocomon starts turning time backwards, causing everyone to become younger. Acting fast, Angemon and Angewomon enter their mega form. Sorry, but quick aside, this is the only time that these two Digimon reach this form during the show. The only other time they appear like this, and I kid you not, was not until 20 years later in Digimon Tri. Yeah, they never appear like this in the cartoon, only in the movie. Anyway, continue. Forms to release the golden Digimetals. Davis and Willis use the golden things to digivolve their Digimon, who get eaten. Well, that was a waste. Actually, this is a good thing. As the two Digimon find Wendigomon in the monster, they realize the only way to stop this is to kill Wendigomon in here, which they do. The virus is defeated, Chocomon leaves this planet, and the movie finally comes to a close. The group bids farewell to Willis, with Willis giving a kiss to Kari and Jolie. Long story, but we'll get to that later. Davis gets angry, and we end on Smash Mouth 6 months before Shrek. And that was the Digimon movie. It's quite the wild ride. A mix of some of the best the franchise has to offer, and some of the, well, not the worst, but you get what I mean. Part of the problem with this film is how long in the tooth it feels. The first two parts go well together, bookending the original series. The issue is that you have the third part that doesn't exactly mesh well with the rest of the film. It's like the third wheel of this film. You can literally remove that third part and the film would be better. Yes, even with the Angela Anaconda part. And to be fair, there is a reason for this. See, the Digimon movie is actually technically 5 separate films. Yes, there is a story behind that, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is why the film feels so disjointed. It's because you're dealing with 3 films Frankenstein together into an eldritch beast. Those 3 films, while technically in chronological order, have no real connection. I mean, the first and second parts too, but that's mainly because they deal with the same characters. The third film, not really. With this in mind, I sought out the original Japanese versions to compare them to their English counterparts. Anyway, let's get started because, oh boy, there are some interesting things with this show, starting with Digimon Adventure. The movie, not the cartoon. As stated earlier in my review of the TV show, Digimon Adventure, the movie, was originally a short film meant to promote the toys, later act as a pilot to the show, Digimon Adventure. And it's quite interesting to watch. The Japanese version is more artsy compared to the English version, going with music more fantastical as opposed to Funk Soul Brother. Not much has really changed between the two versions. Some scenes were omitted or shortened. One noteworthy scene that was omitted is when Tai and Kari's father comes home drunk and wants to kiss his kids goodnight. This happens at the same time Koromon becomes big. Perhaps the biggest change comes from the context of the film. See, in the original film, it's kind of implied that this is Tai remembering the events of the film. This is him reminiscing about encountering Digimon for the first time. In the English version, this was changed to Kari. Though, funny enough, it was originally supposed to be Tai. He was dropped as the narrator when the third film was added in since Tai really isn't in the third film. Personally, I prefer the English version, if only because of making Kari the narrator, and Funk's whole brother, but mostly Kari. The reason is that in the show, Kari remembers Koromon and the Digimon, and has that whole chosen thing about her. So having her reminisce about the events makes perfect sense. Granted, this was made before Digimon was really worked on, so it's understandable why Kari really isn't the main focus in the original film. That being said, there isn't really much difference between the two versions. You can watch either and have a good time, so yeah, watch the Japanese version if you can, but you're not missing out on much if you just watch the English version. Children's war game. For the most part, the plot between the two films are the same. For the most part. Big changes include adding in Willis being responsible for all this. In the Japanese version, Diaboromon just randomly appears. In fact, the person Izzy talks to is a girl from Russia. Funny enough, in the original show, the group learns about the missile because a kid in Singapore hacked the Pentagon and saw that a glitch happened. Also, no one did anything to stop this. Concerning, but okay. This also ties into the whole time element. The timer was meant to signify when Diaboromon would set the bomb off. The whole race to stop the clock was to prevent the warheads from detonating, since nukes are a lot more complicated than just bomb hit ground and go boom. This was also why Diaboromon copied itself, making it harder to stop the clock. Other changes include a few omitted scenes, mostly not needed for the plot. The exception, though, was the few scenes with Matt and TK. In the original show, there is a sequence where Matt and TK are hunting for any computer that has access to the internet. While nowadays Wi-Fi makes it easy to access the internet, there's still the element of hunting around trying to avoid using roaming Wi-Fi as a means to save money. The scene ages well. I personally like the scene and wish they kept it. One change I do prefer in the English version was the music. The Japanese version used a lot of orchestral and marching tracks, which is fine and all, but the English version omits them for either alt-rock or silence, and honestly, I think the silence works more to show just how serious this is. Though, when it comes to Omnimon, this becomes interesting. The Japanese version opts for an angelic soundtrack, making Omnimon sound like an angel is coming down from on high to smite the enemy. The English version? Both work. As for which version I prefer, it's kind of a wash. I like the music in the English version, but I prefer the cut content from the Japanese version. Honestly, if you can, watch both. Digimon 02. Okay, now this was the film I was most interested in. This was the one that I heard had the most cut from it. This was one of the films I really wanted to see what the Japanese version. Back when the Japanese version was on YouTube, this was the film I watched to see what changed. I mean, Children's War Game had some interesting cut content. Surely this film can live up to it. Right? Oh, this is bad. First, let's address the elephant in the room, the cut content. Yes, Saban cut large parts of the story from the film. In fact, of the three, this one had the most cuts. And yet, somehow, despite all that was cut, you don't really miss much story-wise. About the only thing you miss on is the main reason the 02 cast was in America, and that was because Wendigomon had somehow captured the original kids so he can make them younger to find Wallace. That is honestly the biggest change the English version has, outside of connecting the film to our war game. There's also changing Wallace's name to Willis, but that's about it. Well, there is one other thing. This is kind of a spoiler for 02, but here it is. Davis is kind of not the greatest when it comes to characterization. He's very one note. Now, the film does dwell on Davis's relation to his Digimon. In the Japanese version, Wallace reveals that Wendigomon is his Digimon, and that he has trouble coming to grips not being able to help the Digimon. Davis has trouble accepting that Wallace is fighting Chocomon, that he himself could never kill Vmon. Wallace tells Davis that once they reach Colorado, that Chocomon might return, and you see where this goes. The English version cuts this, almost comically so, and of all the cuts, that was the one thing I think they messed up on. Yeah, this film, so much of it is dead air time. And the music, it's bad. Undescribably so. I get the feel they were going for, making America this almost alien land to foreign eyes, but man, is it bad. There is also a tonal difference. The English cut opts to make the film slightly more action-packed, mainly by cutting some scenes or making them shorter. The Japanese original, while it's technically action-packed, it's more of an emotional film, to ponder about Wallace having to choose if he can kill Chocomon, and now I'm sleepy. Let's go back to our war game. One funny thing I'll bring up is that Wallace speaks both Japanese and English. The reasoning is that he had a Japanese girlfriend and learned some Nihongo. I say this is funny is because when Wallace meets Jolie, he is constantly complimenting her appearance. Then there's the kiss at the end and well, let's just say I think Wallace has a type. But back to the review. Just watch the English version. Yes, it's shorter than the Japanese version. Yes, its plot is different. Yes, it ruins the movie. But honestly, compared to the Japanese original, and I hate to say it, the English version is way better. I have no idea how this film would have worked as a standalone direct-to-DVD film, which normally is a segue to the production history of this film, but let's make a quick pit stop at my opinion on pretty much everything else. I'll be quick. Visually, the film looks good, though I like Our War Game the most. It looks the most cinematic of the three films. Music-wise, very well done. Good selection of 90s and early 2000s music. Even the original songs are good. Except the Digi-Rap. No idea who MCP Pod is, and it doesn't seem no one else does as well. Hope they're doing well. Voice acting is good, can't really complain here, and yeah, that about wraps it up, so let's go on to the production. Sit down everyone, get your favorite drink, go use the bathroom. Trust me, we have quite the wild ride. I'll wait. So as stated earlier, the first film was intended to promote a toy and later a TV show that aired the next day. The only thing to note was that Hosada, the director, initially planned for the film to be about Tai's father and his Digimon doing things around Tokyo during the 1968 Olympics. This was rejected, with the film being retooled as a kaiju film. Apparently the big concern with this film was the short length and making it connected to the series, so they said it in the past. Overall, the film did well. Almost immediately after, Hosada was told to make another film. Initially, he had two ideas. One was a travel film set in Okinawa, another a film about the kids saving the world. Obviously, they went with the Save the World film. Though that Okinawa film sounds a lot like the Tamers film Digimon, Battle of Adventurers. But I digress. The film was written to not be as serious compared to Adventure, opting for something easy with thrills. There was also a runtime issue. With only 40 minutes, the cast was limited to 4 main characters. They also took inspiration from the film's speed and had the action of the film happen in real time. Again, the film did well. And then the problems began. Right after Our War Game aired, the third film was sent into production. Hosada was not connected to it, so someone else had to write the script. Since Our War Game had a spring release, this film was going to have a release in fall. This is important since action films are released in the spring while melancholic films are in the fall. The initial script was accepted and then had to be rewritten. Apparently whoever approved the script didn't read it in full or something. They wanted something more action-packed. A few rewrites later and we got the two-parter, 02 film. Look, I'm not saying the full name, it's a mouthful, but yeah, that explains why this film doesn't mesh well. Different director, different tone. But now we need to go back in time in order to understand what happened in America. The year is 1999. Warner Brothers has just released Pokemon, the first movie, a film that changes the industry. You see, up until this point, animated films were expensive affairs. The amount of production time required to make an animated film eclipsed that of any live-action production. But what Warner Brothers realized was that you can cut costs if you just licensed an anime film. Unlike a traditional production, everything about the film is complete. The story, the music, the animation, everything. All you need to do is translate the script, edit it, recut the film, rescore the music, and redub the voices. The last two are very important. By rescoring the music, you avoid having to pay royalties while also gaining them whenever the film airs. As for dubbing, well, when it comes to actors, voice actors are considered quite low on the totem pole, with voiceover actors being even lower. How low, you may ask? How about not being paid residuals for performances? That's right. Outside of initial pay, voiceover actors get nothing. No residuals for DVD sales, no residuals for shows airings, nothing. And for a movie company, that's good. It means production costs are low, allowing for higher profit margins. And Warner Brothers was making bank. Now, Saban looked at this and thought, hey, we own the English license to Digimon. I want a Digimon movie to make money. Surely Digimon has a movie. They do. In fact, there are 4 Digimon movies. One problem. None of them are theatrical length. The first is a 20-minute pilot, the second is a 40-minute short film, and the last 2 are an hour-long 2-parter. But Saban was adamant. They needed a theatrical Digimon film. So Jeff Nimoy sets out and writes a script. The initial plan is to take the first 2 films and splice them together to make one film, while the third film would be released as a straight-to-DVD movie. Saban looked at the script and rejected it. They wanted to use all 3 films. And so the script was rewritten, creating a monster of a 220-minute long film. Except this was also rejected. This time due to budget reasons since Fox didn't have enough money to make a 220-minute long film. So this time they cut scenes from the movies, especially from the third film. And guess what? They now want to add an Angela Anaconda short, because Angela Anaconda and Digimon happen to air around the same time and they mesh pretty well. Also, it's not like time is a problem. I should also point out that this film was also intended for foreign markets, some markets not even airing the 02 content, much less Angela Anaconda. That's right, people, in many countries, kids had to be confused as to what in the world Angela Anaconda was, and who the 02 cast happened to be, because that makes sense. Although, according to the artist of my current thumbnails, who is from Argentina, the film aired without the Angela Anaconda short. This might have been in some regions, regardless, it's advertisement. Get the kids interested in the next season, so production continues with the release date coming up. Nothing can stop.
Now give them hell.
Oh, right! The Screen Actors Guild! They had a cow with this film. So, remember how I said voiceover artists aren't paid residuals? Well, SAG had some stipulations as to what constitutes voiceover work. When SAG got a hold of the Digimon Movie script, they realized that what Saban was making was something they had never encountered before. What Saban was doing was taking 3 foreign films, stitching them together like some Frankenstein monster, and making a completely new film that was significantly different from the source material. SAG issued a no work order, stopping production of the film. There was even a court case, and let me tell you, SAG was not going easy on Saban, because guess what? SAG and Saban already had a history thanks to Power Rangers, and anyone who knows anything about Power Rangers just knows how much of a shit show that production was. For anyone who doesn't, Linkara does history of Power Rangers. Just watch any of the episodes prior to Wild Force, or just read what happened to David Yost. Yeah, SAG did not like Saban. Now, something was eventually negotiated since the film did release. What that entails, I have no idea. And not for lack of trying. I did email SAG-AFTRA about it. Didn't really get an answer. Probably something about it can't be legally talked about, or it's been too long in the time that no one remembers. More likely it had to do with residuals for home video sale and re-airings, or something. But once that was taken care of, the production finished, the film aired, and critics hated it. But that didn't matter, as the film made money. I mean, not as much money as the Pokemon film because of everything, but it was a financial success. But at what cost? Legacy-wise, not financially. The legacy of this film is odd. Like I said, the film was a critical failure, but it did make money, but not for long. Remember, a big part of making these films are the residuals, and while the film did air overseas on television, domestic airings seem to have been limited, which makes sense. In 2002, Disney would buy out Saban, gaining access to the company's massive animation library. The Digimon film was an issue. While Disney at the time owned the Digimon license, the film itself was published by Fox, with the original 5 films owned by Toei. And while Disney now owns Fox, they don't own the English license to Digimon. In fact, I kinda suspect that this is part of the reason Disney dubbed the next couple of films as a means to get additional content for Jetix. Regardless, this film is in a sort of legal limbo. It can't air without messing with someone's ownership. That's also not taking into account SAG regulations when it comes to residuals, since now you have to pay 2 casts, plus Angela Anaconda, for their performance in this film. And don't even think about publishing the Japanese originals. If my understanding of the industry is accurate, this film is considered the English localization of those 3 films. Point is, this film has to contend with a lot of legal problems before it will ever re-air. There's also the fact that this film destroyed Angela Anaconda. I mean, Angela Anaconda isn't the best show, but the fact that most people hate Angela Anaconda and give it no chance is because of this film, yeah. Also, there's that story about a kid's parents getting a divorce because of Angela Anaconda, and, well, let's just say the ride never ends. And then there's the most important question, is this film canon?
Run when you can!
One of the weirder elements of this film's legacy is its connection to the original series. Parts 1 and 2 are canon. I mean, the first is a pilot where the events are talked about in the show, and the second part does get a sequel film in the form of Diaboromon's Revenge. But the third part, it gets tricky. Ignoring how 02 had the whole Digidestined around the world thing, and how this movie takes place between episodes 21 and 22, there's an issue of Wallace. The film ends with Wallace getting Chocomon back, but an audio drama released after 02, which features Wallace without Chocomon. But then there's Last Evolution, and Wallace appears with Chocomon. Yeah, no matter how you look at it, the third part makes no sense. It's canon, yet not canon. Make up your mind, film. On a more positive note, Hosoda would go on to make the film Summer Wars. Why is this important? Because the plot between Summer Wars and Our War Game are so similar that Our War Game is considered something of a proto-Summer Wars film. Which is funny because that Angela Anaconda short at the start, yeah, it got retooled into a separate episode that omits the Digimon stuff. Weird how coincidences work. So yeah, this film has an odd legacy. And yet it's because of this legacy I recommend watching this film. Allow me to explain. Nowadays, you can look at anime and ask, do I want to watch the sub or the dub? Because both have their advantages and disadvantages. But back in the early 2000s, that really wasn't a thing. If there was an anime you wanted to watch, you basically had to hope it received an English dub. Oh sure, you could buy a DVD or VHS copy of the Japanese dub, but that entails spending a pretty penny on footage that probably isn't even translated. And if you don't speak Japanese, well, tough. So now you have to hope the show gets picked up and dubbed for an English audience. Again, expensive DVD and VHS purchase, but now you also have to hope that the translation is accurate, because guess what? There are a lot of fly-by operations trying to make a quick buck on anime. Ah, you can pirate it, you say. Well, how? YouTube is still in its infancy and Pirate Bay isn't a thing yet. You basically have to hunt for sketchy uploads of low-quality rips of footage. Again, untranslated, and also with a high possibility of a virus. So yeah, your options are limited. If you are truly unlucky, your anime gets picked up by the likes of Saban or Kids WB, and they butcher and hack your favorite anime into a low-budget Saturday morning's kids show. And, because they own the license, future releases are going to be based on that hack dub. And even if that company gets bought out or goes under, there's a high chance that your favorite anime will enter into a legal limbo, never to be seen again. This, my friends, is why I recommend watching this film. Because it's a time capsule of what anime was like in the early 2000s, having to contend with subpar dubs that are seen as cheap cash grabs for a children's network. How you have to just contend with what is out there with no means to see the original. And while it's easy for me to say we have gotten better, this leads me to the second reason to watch this film. A warning of things to come. Anyone who is privy to the anime industry knows just how bad it is when it comes to localizers. Despite doing the important job of localizing a script, translating in a way that English speakers can understand, they are grossly underpaid for their work. But at least they're translating the shows accurately, right? Not really. Whether because of pay disputes, personal reasons, or from orders from higher ups, it has come to light that many localizations of anime often add in contexts that aren't present in the original show. Usually these are meant to add in a political or social agenda that's not present in the original airing. But, I mean, YouTube exists now, so at least you can find original uploads of these shows, right? Right? I mean, you could for a while, but due to copyright, many of these uploads have since been removed. A few still exist here and there, but it's not like how it once was. There are sites like Crunchyroll, but even these can be problematic. Localizations aside, sites like Crunchyroll sometimes sit on the licenses, either as a means to get all the episodes and then release them for binge watching, or because they want the anime to be part of a lineup, something Crunchyroll has done to the likes of Shaman King and High Guardian Spice. But there might be a light at the end of the tunnel. Recently, Dicotek has announced that they are releasing a Blu-ray release of Digimon Adventure the cartoon, and a separate release of the Japanese dub. Now, while it's unlikely, there is a slim chance that maybe, just maybe, we will get an English subbed version of these three films, because the only alternative is to search eBay for used copies of these films, which, again, unfortunately, only includes Our War Game and the 02 film, since the adventure film appears to have not received an official DVD release? But overall, I do recommend watching this film. Between its great animation, voice acting, and music, the film is a nice little popcorn flick. The kids will like it, even if the third part is not that great. The biggest issue will be that the film kind of expects that you have watched the original anime. Kind of wish I had a synopsis or something, which apparently it might have been in some versions, but I won't dwell on that. The English version is easy to find on eBay, just bear in mind that you're dealing with 20-year-old DVDs. As for the Japanese versions, again, I highly recommend watching them, except the third film. If you're a big fan of Digimon, these Japanese versions can be viewed as more of a director's cut sort of situation. They're hard to find though, so be careful. Lots of bootleg DVDs out there. But yeah, that's the review. A nice little side adventure into the world of Digimon. I honestly did not expect the third film to be what it was, or how messed up the production of this film was, or how relevant this movie still is. But that's the fun thing with reviewing shows like this. You never know what you'll expect. As for the other films, I think I'll hold off on them, footnotes and whatnot. Maybe a future review. No one does talk about the X-Evolution film. But first, we still have the TV show with 02 next. Just hold on, it's one more show till Tamers. You can survive 54 episodes of Davis. Oh, that wasn't for you, that was for me. See you all next time.
The Digivolution is up and running. Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know what's coming? A Digi Destiny starts today. Let me hear you say.